Have you written a book and want to get it published? Then now's the time to call Page Publishing at 800-204-6099 and do it immediately. You see, they're looking for authors of all types of books. And unlike most publishers, Page Publishing will take the time to review most of the books submitted to them. And they'll even give you their feedback. And if they like what they read, Page Publishing will get your book into bookstores and for sale online at Amazon, the Apple iTunes Store, and other outlets. They'll handle everything: copyright protection, printing, cover art, publicity, and editing. So if you've written a novel, a children's book, a cookbook, inspirational work, a book of poetry, or biography, and want to get it published, then you need to call Page Publishing and do it immediately. Call 800-204-6099 now for your free author submission kit. Your road to fame and fortune could very well start with this simple phone call. For your free author submission kit, call Page Publishing at 800-204-6099.
This is the Page Publishing Book Club. Hey, happy Easter for those of you celebrating. You know what? This is the whole show. We're just going to listen to this awesome song by a band called Chevy Lopez. Love them. Look them up on Facebook. Look them up online. I'm your host, Alice Stockton Rossini, along with Rob Barrett's my engineer. Before I forget, I got to let you know that we are soon to be in the swing of Mets season, huh? Ha ha, we're so excited. And of course, WOR is all Mets all the time, all season long. And, you know, every once in a while, the Page Publishing Book Club may have to take one for the team. You know what I'm talking about? We may be preempted or canceled. Stop. I can hear the moans, the tears, the crying. Oh, can you hear it, Rob? It's breaking my heart over here. Very sad, Page Publishing Book Club fans, but, you know, really not so sad, especially if the Mets have the kind of season that everybody who's a Mets fan is anticipating. Long-suffering Mets fans need a winning season more than you need this show. I will tell you that. I just want to give you a heads up, okay, in case you tune in and, you know, you hear a Mets game. Otherwise, April never looked better. See you, winter. But bye now. Get out. As always, we have some spectacular writers in the bullpen, some like Colette Hairston, with stories you couldn't make up if you tried. This is a story that honestly, seriously now can't be believed. But for so many kids, more kids than you may realize, it's absolutely true. Parents don't want them. They don't care what happens to them. And Colette wrote The Thrown Away Kids.
The book basically is about being thrown away as a child. My parents, well, actually it was my mother who chose to throw away her last 4 set of girls to the state of New York, and no reason known to us. That's what happened to us, and it's a travesty. We were award of the state of New York. Like in my situation, I had no idea that was happening to me. My mother always had different interracial friends. So one day I came home from school, and there was a woman sitting in our living room. I said hello, went upstairs to do my homework. When I came back downstairs, my mother said, "Oh, you have to meet her tomorrow." And I'm like, okay, you know, you trust your parents, you know. So I thought we were just meeting her for like lunch or dinner. So I was like, okay. And then, which was on a Friday, which was the next day, my mother gave us car fare, which was one way. I had no idea. We never took the subways or the bus. And when I get there, you know, she said that we can't go home. And I was like, what do you mean you can't go home? You know, she said, your mother don't want you. Call. I called my mother, and I asked her what's going on. She said, I can't go home. My mother said, it's right, and hung up the phone.
How old were you?
I was 14.
Did you ever find out why she did that?
Actually, no. When I confronted my mother when I was 18, you know, she denied it. You know, her thing was, you know, that we ran away. She told my family members. My father was in the Navy, so we only got to see him maybe 1 month a year. So, you know, when she threw us away, I was like, okay, fine. You know, when my father comes for his vacation, he's going to come and get us. You know, and every year, that's what I'm saying to myself, and that never happened. And so I just stopped saying my father was going to come and get us because he didn't. So he believed the story that my mother said that we ran away from home, which I don't understand because my father was a very good provider. He made sure we had everything we needed. And his motto was, I'll give you what you need, but you must earn what you want.
So how did your life end up?
being in the system, as soon as I turned 18, they throw you out. You know, they didn't look for any counseling or anything for anybody to really, you know, get to the bottom of the fact that, you know, you were thrown away from your parents. Not either people, one of both parents. In my case, it was one parent, my mother. So there was no counseling just to deal with that rejection from your mother for throwing you away, and also the double rejection for your father not coming to get you. You know, and that's you know, it's like a roller coaster. My basically, you know, growing up from there was like going from hell and back. You know, an emotional roller coaster.
Did you end up getting therapy or help?
No, you know, I just dealt with that, and eventually, I think it was like a couple of years ago, you know, I prayed to God and just removed all of that remorse and all of that anger out of my body.
What did you end up doing for a living?
Well, I'm self-employed. I've had very, very good jobs. I worked at Metropolitan Museum of Art. I worked at NYU Medical Center. I worked for a couple of investigation companies. So I ended up having good jobs, but the problem was the not being able to let anyone in. You know what I mean? No one get too close, not really letting anyone love me, or matter of fact, for me to even love them, because you know, you don't trust anybody. If you can't trust your parents, who can you trust?
What got you to the point where you could write it all down?
I've always said that once I was in the home, you know, I always said that I was going to just write a book about this because it was wrong. Yeah. You know, it is wrong for parents to throw their children away at such a young life, because basically they're throwing them into the elements of any city or state they're from. You know, I knew nothing about the city. I was born and raised in Queens, you know. I knew nothing about, you know, getting on the bus and the subway. So you're basically throwing away your child's innocence and all of their dreams and their goals. And, you know, you're walking away from that, and that's wrong. Did
you ever have kids of your own?
I have 3 children, okay? Not of my own, because I've been gay my whole life. So I do have 3 children, 33, 24, and 23, who I raised as my own kids. Yeah, and I have 4 grandchildren.
And you were able to do that and love them and be normal? And
Of course, because it's the love that, you know, you don't get as a child. You see, the way I was raised was so weird, because I as I think about it through all the years of my life, you know, I don't ever remember my parents ever telling me that they loved me. It is very sad, and a lot of people that are in these foster homes, institutions, you know, group homes. I was lucky to be in a good group home, but a lot of people that are in those institutions, you know, a lot of them have died or went to jail, or, you know, it's horrible. Yeah. And for parents not to care, what they're destroying their children mentally. And for us, because we were sheltered kids, we went to Catholic school, all of that. So to be thrown out there into the wild, yeah, it's crazy.
You're writing this hoping you can help someone in a situation similar to yours, or to let people know that this is going on.
Yeah, I'm writing this book for not only for the parents that throwing their kids away, or who are thinking about throwing their children away, and also for the kids that are in these, that was thrown away. So I'm writing this book for them. For the parents, you know, they have to think about what they're actually doing to their children. And basically you're throwing away their hopes, their dreams, you're throwing away their future. And if you're thinking about that, then the parents need to find somebody to talk to, you know. Your pastor, your reverend, your preacher, anybody, a counselor, to see, you know, you need to hold your family together, because not every person that's thrown away was as lucky as I was, or my family was. And for the kids, you know, not to, you know, walk through my shoes, and to demand, when you're in these institutions, to demand that they do give you some type of counseling, because you need to lead a productive life. And you cannot lead it if you do not have the counseling.
I don't know how Colette got through her life without counseling. That's pretty frightening to me. She writes about what she knows, and that's what we always talk about on this show. Write about what you know. And I hope this book makes a difference, either in the life of a parent who, for some reason, thinks, you know, it's okay to give their kids away, or a child in a similar situation. Colette says her faith got her through. and she's determined to make sure kids who've been cast out and are in the system get some kind of psychological help so they can move forward and have meaningful lives. Next up, we are going to go beyond the stars with Arthur Arpine Zagarian, or RP, as she likes to be called. What's the story, RP?
It's a children's book about a child who goes around the world, and my reason for writing it is because I've been teaching for 9 years now, and we talk about all these places to the kids, and I wanted a fun way to show them all the great things that these countries have to offer. It covers Paris, Australia, Egypt, the United States, Russia.
So it's beyond where you are right now.
Yes.
Yeah. How old are the kids?
The kids I teach are 5 years old.
Oh, okay. So they're really little guys.
Yeah.
So they still, have active imaginations.
Mm-hmm.
Is this intended as a teaching guide?
It's supposed to be like a cross between fiction and nonfiction because I do talk about the different places in the world, but it's more of like a journey, one child's journey. And the places that you can go through a book. So I wanted to inspire them to read and to go beyond their imagination and learn about these places so they can go on those journeys someday too.
Do you use this with your kids now?
I do. I've read it to them, and then we talk about the different places after we read the story, and I ask them where they'd like to go, which part they like the most.
And all of their parents rushed in and bought your book, right?
Yes, I hope so. I want to do more book signings, book readings at libraries and bookstores. As of right now, with my work schedule, teaching, it's kind of difficult. But I'm hoping in the upcoming year, I'm going to free up some time.
Well, don't they have book fairs and book sales at your school?
We do not do book sales, no.
I think it's time you did.
I definitely will try.
I take it you've gotten feedback on it.
I have. It's been positive. I just need to reach a bigger audience. I mean, that's my biggest challenge right now.
Had a good experience with Paige?
I have. It's been a lovely experience. They were upfront about everything, and they've been very supportive, and the illustrations came out amazing. I'm so happy with the work.
You know what? We've been getting a lot of positive feedback lately about the illustrations that Paige is doing for books, so it's good to know, RP. And don't be discouraged. Summer's coming. There's summer camps, summer reading programs at libraries, summer community programs. Hit these people up now. Tell them that you wrote a book for kids, and, there's a good chance they would love to have you come in, read to the kids, talk about being a published author. It's worth a shot, right, Rob? See, he agrees with everything I say. And it's the old, you don't know if you don't try. Now we have some practical advice from Mary Sue Cirancione. Mary Sue, are you ready to talk about Jet's adventure, A Walk in the Woods?
Yes, I am.
Okay, what's it about?
It's about a little boy who takes a walk in the woods, and his mom is teaching him that he shouldn't touch things that that don't belong to him, that he doesn't know about. And so as he's walking through the woods, he comes across some animals that are interesting to touch, but are dangerous. And Jet reminds him of his mother saying, if it's not your own, then leave it alone.
So what was your inspiration for your book?
I used to work for the Dutchess County SPCA as a humane law officer or an animal cop. And we used to try to, when we went to schools and stuff, that was what we tried to enforce. Don't go sticking your fingers into other people's yards because you think the dog is cute, because you could get seriously hurt. Like I said, we used to have the Boy Scouts come in and the different school groups, and when we used to try to educate kids about touching animals that weren't their own. And that really was the inspiration, that a cool coloring reading book might be a way of teaching these kids.
It's a workbook.
Yes. The kids get to color the pictures that go along with the pages. And so, because I think that books that are more interactive. The kids enjoy reading more. You know, it helps reinforce what the story's about. They're going to remember it because they were able to color the pictures.
What's one rule that kids should follow?
That if you don't know the animal, like if it's not your pet, then don't touch it.
How are you getting the book out there to people?
Now I'm looking into different places where I could get the word across to where they have large numbers of kids, you know, like maybe doing something in my local mall where I can get the kids on the weekends. You know, there's a few things that are coming up this spring with the schools and stuff, so I'm going to see if I can't get into the schools where they have like reading week and trying to get my book in there for that.
Sounds like a plan, Mary Sue. I don't think you can overwarn kids about the potential dangers of other people's pets. That's for sure. When my kids were little, I used to think it was, you know, it could be confusing because we had this German Shepherd Lab mix. They could literally crawl all over her. They could pull her tongue out. They could pull her tail. Nothing ever happened. And then when we were out and they would see a dog, we'd be like, don't touch, because you don't know what somebody else's dog is going to do. So it's another good book that you could actually take around to read to kids at summer camps and in summer reading programs. We have got to take a quick break. Get a nosh. Come back. I'll be waiting. This is the Page Publishing Book Club.
Have you written a book and want to get it published? Then now's the time to call Page Publishing at 800-204-6099 and do it immediately. You see, they're looking for authors of all types of books. And unlike most publishers, Page Publishing will take the time to review most of the books submitted to them. And they'll even give you their feedback. And if they like what they read, Page Publishing will get your book into bookstores and for sale online at Amazon, the Apple iTunes Store, and other outlets. They'll handle everything. Copyright protection, printing, cover art, publicity, and editing. So if you've written a novel, a children's book, a cookbook, inspirational work, a book of poetry, or biography, and want to get it published, then you need to call Page Publishing and do it immediately. Call 800-204-6099 now for your free author submission kit. Your road to fame and fortune could very well start with this simple phone call. For your free author submission kit, call Page Publishing at 800-204-6099.
Welcome back to the Page Publishing Book Club. I'm your host, Alice Stockton Rossini. Guess what time it is? It is time for a rhyme with Marv Levy. And if that name sounds familiar, there's a reason for that. How you doing, Marv?
It's time for a rhyme. It sure is. Here's a book, which is poetry, all poetry, 240-some pages. And it's all rhyming poetry. In fact, one of the poems in it decries the fact that don't call it a poem if it doesn't rhyme. It sounds too disjointed. So, but it is a broad variety of topics. Some very little bit sports related, even though that's what I did most of my life. There's some of it, but a lot of it is history. A lot of it, I hope, is humor, and it's just on a very broad variety of topics. And I hope what I hope it's about mostly is that it's entertaining, to be honest.
You did sports?
Oh, well, I was a football coach in the National Football League through most of my career, 47 years as a football coach in college and professional football, primarily for the Buffalo Bills through the late 1980s and through most of the 1990s. And it was the glory years for the Bills. We went to, unfortunately didn't win, 4 consecutive Super Bowls during that period of time.
Wow. And you ended up writing a book of poems.
Well, yes, I did. I had written other things. I had written a memoir called Where Else Would You Rather Be, which is what I used to say to our players before the kickoff of every game. Where else would you rather be than right here, right now? And that did reach the New York Times bestseller list. Then I wrote a novel, Between the Lies, and now this book, It's Time for a Rhyme. And I loved writing. I went to history in an English major in college, and I always aspired to write. Now that I had the time, that's what I'm doing.
Well, why did you go with Page?
Well, I don't know. I just did some research, the so-called, I did some research on who good publishers were and self-publishers, because going to the more frequent ones, and I shouldn't say frequent ones, but to the straight publishing companies, they weren't interested in poetry, apparently. Page was. They've been wonderful in augmenting it, so they just sounded good to me, and that's where I went.
Hey, Page, I think we just got a commercial. This guy is a New York Times bestseller. He goes with Page Publishing, gives them a glowing review. I don't think it gets much better than that. And I think it's cool that, a former NFL coach for the Buffalo Bills writes a book of rhymes for kids. How about that? I like the title of his other book, too. Where else would you rather be than right here, right now? Where else, Rob? Nowhere else. Our last author wrote a book based on a true story. Corina Gomes wrote A Dog Named Rodeo, and it's a story you may recognize. Corina, how long ago was this?
It happened in 97, okay? And I'm in California, and we actually had a lot of rain that year. And it's up north from us. I live about an hour from Sacramento, which is our capital, and about an hour from San Francisco on a good day. And so we're calling the triangle. But anyway, we had a lot of rain, and we were watching the floods, and the rivers were really rising up north. And the river broke and came into one of the farms, all the farms actually came in, and the master, who left their dog behind, like the water was really high, and the dog got on the roof of the house. And it stayed there for about 3 days until a helicopter stopped, a radio station helicopter, Channel 3, stopped and grabbed the dog and put it in the helicopter. And I had my leg in the cast that year, and my husband said, "Oh, you should write it. You're here home all day. Why don't you write a story about that?" And I said, "Well, I don't know." So anyway, I did, and that's what happened. And it's about a little dog who got left by his master on the roof of his house that had flooded.
Did the master have no choice but to leave the dog?
I don't know. They didn't tell that part. When you see the story about the roof, the dog being on the roof and stuff, it just said that my theory was, poor Rodeo, his master had gone and left him. I mean, who leaves their dog behind unless it's absolutely, and who knows, maybe she wasn't even at home. I don't know that part, but I just know that the story didn't somehow say that people were scrambling to get their things because the river had broken and, the water was coming. And so anyway, so poor Rodeo got left on top of the roof.
And for 3 days, he didn't have any food or water or anything?
No.
Wow.
No, and they didn't know what in the radio station. Once the levee broke, the radio station sent up their helicopter in Sacramento and just to observe the area, and stuff. And they observed it the first time, and I guess they had a chimney. The house had a chimney, and the dog must have been sitting behind it and stuff, scared to death and wet. Finally, it was like late in the evening the next day when they figured out, they saw the dog, and it was too late to decide what they're going to do and how they were going to rescue. And the water was really running, and, they weren't going to put a boat into the water. When it broke, it went a long ways. So anyhow, this helicopter pilot, on the next day, he decided that he put the helicopter down, and they grabbed the dog. The guy in the back with the camera grabbed the dog and threw it in the helicopter. You know what? Master saw the whole thing on TV, right? And she went back to the radio station and claimed her dog. So there you go. But what happened to the chickens and the horses and all that other stuff? So
I don't know.
That's how my little story of a dog named Rodeo got started.
That's
as far as I know, there's never been a story written about this. And then I'm a widowed now, and my late husband was the one that, and I would rewrite it and write it and rewrite it. And he goes, "That's good." And he was really good with spelling and punctuation and stuff. And so he punctuated and did crap like that. And I don't know. I started art lessons about 3 years ago. And I thought, you know what? I looked into having somebody do my art, my illustrations, and it was going to be like $5,000. And I thought, well, I don't have $5,000 for that. So I thought I'll go to art lessons, and I did. And I do watercolors now. But my art teacher, George, he was really super nice. He said he's been drawing since he was 6 or something like that. And so he did my illustrations for me. So that's how it all came about. And am I going to be on the bestseller list? No, but I have dreams of being, Pixar will pick it up and make a cute little story out of it, a cartoon.
That would be great. Wouldn't that be great?
Yeah, wouldn't that be great? Well, Pixar is here in Oakland, and I'm not too far. It's actually in Berkeley.
Take that book over there.
Yeah, I should. I should be able to buy a $10,000 dress just for one night. Be on the red carpet. Wouldn't that be cool?
That'd be awesome. I would be there. I'd be there for you.
Well, good. But anyway, so that's how my story got started. And I wrote about, thinking that poor dog. He was left there. He was hungry. He was cold. And where was his master? And how was he going to get off? And when he tried to drink water, the river was running too fast and he was so thirsty.
Aww.
And the river was running faster. So, he stayed huddled up right there by the fireplace, the brick fireplace. He came up, so that was Rodeo.
Rodeo, by the way, was a border collie. And you can see pictures of the dog on the roof of that house online. And you can also see pictures of the pilot who actually rescued the dog. It's a really great story. And that wraps up another edition of the Page Publishing Book Club. Thank you so much for stopping by. Thank you, Rob, for making us all sound like rock stars. Come back next week for another edition of the Page Publishing Book Club. And if this isn't enough for you, you really have to tune in to 710 WOR online, on iHeart, the old-fashioned way on your radio every morning, 6 to 10 a.m. for the Len Berman, Todd Schnitt morning show. It is like a morning zoo for adults, and we really are having a great time, so check us out. In the meantime, start writing.
Have you written a book and want to get it published? Then now's the time to call Page Publishing at 800-204-6099 and do it immediately. You see, they're looking for authors of all types of books. And unlike most publishers, Page Publishing will take the time to review most of the books submitted to them. And they'll even give you their feedback. And if they like what they read, Page Publishing will get your book into bookstores and for sale online at Amazon, the Apple iTunes Store, and other outlets. They'll handle everything. Copyright protection, printing, cover art, publicity, and editing. So if you've written a novel, a children's book, a cookbook, inspirational work, a book of poetry, or biography, and want to get it published, then you need to call Page Publishing and do it immediately. Call 800-204-6099 now for your free author submission kit. Your road to fame and fortune could very well start with this simple phone call for your free author submission kit. Call Page Publishing at 800-204